Now, let's all think about it carefully. Did you spot any holes in my argument just now? If you agree that my reasoning was solid, can you accept my conclusion? It's this: our limitless minds can't find their place in the real world because everything in the real world has its limits. Even the fanciest mansion is still a finite thing, and even a high-power position like being a member of the Politburo Standing Committee has its limitations. So, if you've been following along and haven't found any logical issues with what I said, then we can draw a conclusion. The trickiest part of life is dealing with our own existence, particularly the inner troubles we face. The challenge lies in finding peace for our limitless minds. No matter how hard we try, it won't find its place in the real world. It can only go beyond worldly existence. We need to make sure our kids get this early on, guide them towards a path where their hearts can rise above the ordinary. Have we ever taught them to break free from the rat race? It's a step we've never really emphasized with the next generation. We keep telling them that reality is tough, and they gotta understand the ups and downs, learn to play the game and avoid getting hurt in this world. That's what we drill into them. We never really thought about teaching them to take the first step. The first step is to go beyond the limits of everyday life and then come back to it. It's like taking a breather before jumping back in. First transcend, then enter. And then there's this saying, approach everyday matters with a spiritual mindset. It's something even regular folks in China say, and it means dealing with everyday stuff with a mindset that goes beyond it. That's the real deal in Chinese philosophy. So, here's the deal, folks. The first step is to transcend. Transcend before diving into the world. What's the prerequisite for diving in? Well, you gotta transcend first. If you haven't transcended, what are you even talking about diving into? You're already in the world, man. About 2 years back, I had a quick trip to Taiwan. Fudan University sent us over there. We were a group of 6, on a study tour to check out how Taiwanese universities handle general education. We traveled from the top to the bottom of Taiwan, interviewing professors at 7 different universities. Our first stop was National Taiwan University, NTU. The professors there were super friendly and sat down with us to talk about their approach to general education. They even treated us to lunch, being all hospitable and stuff. But halfway through the meal, out of nowhere, a professor from NTU's Chinese department dropped a bomb on me. He goes, "You know, in my opinion, mainland China is seriously lacking in culture." Well, let me tell you, I was not happy about that comment. I immediately fired back, "Hey, I'm actually involved in cultural work myself." He quickly clarified, No, that's not what I meant. I'm talking about the social life in mainland China lacking culture." As soon as he said that, it hit me. I got what he was trying to say. He wasn't saying mainland China has no culture when it comes to research and spreading the arts. He meant that the overall social scene in mainland China is devoid of any cultural essence. So, what does it mean to have or lack culture? What's the difference? It's pretty straightforward. Let's say you start a business. From an economic standpoint, it's an investment, right? Nothing wrong with wanting to make some money. But besides chasing profits, have you ever thought about putting up a sign in your store that says, honesty and fairness? That's when culture comes into play. Also, you open up a private hospital. That's also an investment, and making money is a legitimate goal. But did you remember to hang up a sign in the hospital's waiting area that says, life comes first? That's when culture comes into play. And if you start a private school, it's the same deal. Investment and making a profit are on the table. But did you remember to put up a sign in your school building that says, education without discrimination? That's when culture comes into play. So, I totally get what that professor from NTU's Chinese department was getting at. What's the prerequisite for culture to emerge? It's for a nation to first have a higher purpose and then tackle everyday matters. Today, we will delve into the theme that drives Chinese philosophy. What does it mean? How can people navigate through the toughest parts of life? How can they find peace within their limitless minds? This is what sets Chinese philosophy apart from its Western counterpart. There is no one-size-fits-all philosophy in the world. We've got European philosophy, Indian philosophy, and Chinese philosophy. Those are the big three. Anything beyond that doesn't count as proper philosophy. Throughout history, we've seen three major categories of philosophy: Chinese, Indian, and European, which started way back in ancient Greece. Now, these three philosophical systems have different vibes. Western philosophy focuses on self-related issues, while Chinese philosophy digs deep into the meaning of life. It's not like Western philosophy completely ignores life-related questions, but it believes that sorting out life's problems starts with figuring out the self. So, what's the deal with Western philosophy? Its goal is to explore the objective knowledge we have about the world. They're all about the prerequisites, the foundations, and how to get reliable and effective knowledge about the world. Those are the big questions they tackle. They only touch on the questions about human life once they've sorted out their own self-related issues. But Chinese philosophy doesn't play by those rules. From the get-go, Chinese philosophy dives straight into the questions of human life. Why do we even question the meaning of life? I just gave you the answer. It's because we need to find peace within ourselves. If our hearts aren't settled, troubles start popping up. That's why Chinese philosophy is all about the philosophy of life. It all started way back in the 5th century BC, during the pre-Qin period, and it has been evolving for over 2,000 years up until today. The coolest thing in Chinese philosophy is Wang Yangming's school of heart, which is like the pinnacle of Chinese life wisdom. Remember when I mentioned all those different schools of thought competing for attention? Well, a lot of them eventually faded away. The Logos, the Mahist school, they all declined. In the end, it was Confucianism and Taoism that took the spotlight. Confucianism became the main foundation, and Taoism added its own flavor, creating this awesome combo known as the integration of Confucianism and Taoism. And hey, Buddhism also joined the party. Then, during the transition from the Western Han Dynasty to the Eastern Han Dynasty, 1st century CE, Buddhism made its way to China all the way from India. It brought along its Buddhist scriptures. That period is what we call the transition between the Western and Eastern Han dynasties when Buddhism landed in China. After generations of hard work by intellectuals, something amazing happened during the Tang Dynasty, 7th century CE. We pulled off something truly remarkable. We translated Buddhist scriptures into Chinese. Why is that a big deal? It means we made Buddhist philosophy fit right into Chinese culture, and the best part is Zen Buddhism. From then on, Chinese life wisdom was made up of three major parts: Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. During the Song Dynasty and Ming Dynasty, these three schools of thought blended together, forming what we call the integration of Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. And the result of this awesome fusion was the School of Heart, led by Lu Xiangshan, 12th century, and Wang Yangming. Okay, let's delve into how Chinese philosophy points us towards transcendence. So, we've got Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism, right? That means we've got three different paths to reach transcendence. And guess what? Eventually, these three paths come together and meet up at the School of Heart, led by Lu Xiangshan and Wang Yangming. It's like a big convergence. First, let's talk about these three paths individually, and then we'll see how they all come together.